During the Big 12 media days, Sonny Dykes said that TCU had Connor Stalions all figured out during their playoff semifinal win over Michigan 3 seasons ago. Connor Stalions heard about it and said, no, they did not have him figured out. Then he proved it by spilling his secrets. This is fascinating stuff. Locked on Big Ten starts right now.
You are Locked On Big Ten, your daily podcast on the Big Ten Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Big Ten. I'm Craig Sheeman, 40 years as a sports talk show host and play-by-play announcer, and I want to thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Hit that free subscribe button down below while you're watching. You'll never miss a single episode. Plus, share, like, and follow so you don't miss a single episode. By the way, subscribers, we're this close to 20,000. If you can get us there, that would be muchly appreciated. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app and create an account and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. So, Connor Stalions confess secrets. Plus, later on, we'll talk about the Iowa Hawkeyes. A little bit of quiet hype around them. And Tuesday tweets. Did yours make it? Coming off Big 12 media days last week, where TCU head coach Sonny Dykes said that the Horned Frogs knew what Connor Stalions and Michigan were up to, and so they had used dummy signals versus Michigan in the 2022-2023 college football playoff semifinal. This is a year before the Stalions SpyGate story broke. So I have two quick thoughts here. First of all, TCU apparently already knew that Michigan was stealing their signs, and don't all teams use dummy calls to try and confuse the other team? That's just standard operating procedure. Just a little thought. So, by the way, if you don't remember, TCU won this game handily, even though Michigan had been stealing signs and knew what was going on. That would, in fact, be J.J. McCarthy and Jim Harbaugh's last college football loss on the field. They went undefeated and won the national championship the next year. But back to Stalions. He seemed really offended and insulted by Dykes' comments last week. He was like, please, I knew that you knew that I knew what we were doing all along. And he said there was nothing that TCU could have done that he could not figure out on the Michigan sideline. Stalions, in fact, he released this on social media here this week. Stalions insinuated that if Dykes thought that TCU won the game because they were smarter than Stalions in Michigan, he's wrong. Wouldn't go there. Stalions said that Michigan lost the game because of turnovers and poor defense, not because TCU fooled Michigan or outthought or out-schemed or outstole signs with Michigan. You want behind-the-scenes details? I personally find this stuff fascinating. If you like the old Netflix special that came out last year on Connor Stalions, you're going to love this stuff. If you hate Michigan, think they were cheaters, and you hate Connor Stalions, but you like insider football stuff, you're still going to love this stuff. So here's what Stalions posted on social media about that semifinal game against TCU. He said that TCU kept everything from the coordinator to the quarterback the same. He saw right through all of it. Nothing changed there. TCU used dummy signals and some new signals from the quarterbacks to the wide receivers. That was it. None of it mattered because Stalions said that he had his eye on the coaches and he could watch them change signals in real time. So anything they did, he just saw. He saw right through it. He said Ohio State did the same exact thing in a game that the Wolverines won, by the way. Stalions said that TCU changed its route and run concepts in the game, but their formations and that their pass protection signals all remained the same, which was all that Stalions really cared about. Stalions said that changing those, in addition to everything else, it would have been way too confusing for their 18-year-old kids and would have confused their own team more than they would have confused Connor Stalions. So I thought that was interesting as well. But then Stalions offered some blunt advice to everybody. He said, if you don't want teams to steal your signals, don't use signals. The guy feels like he can steal anything. He can figure it out. He said anytime that signals on offense, anytime that a team signals on offense, they're trying to force the defense to signal back to their own players, and then the offense can steal them at that point. Then Stalions made this interesting admission. He said correlating signal stealing to wins and losses at Michigan. He says it's funny to him because it's not true. He said there were a total of 7 games in his career at Michigan where he knew virtually every signal of the opposing team. And he said he lost 3 of those 7 games. So he said there's no correlation. He said those particular losses all came about because of poor tackling. And in one of those games, the Georgia game, he just said the Bulldogs were historically good. Nothing you could do. You know everything. You just weren't going to beat them. So he said the 4 games that they did win, those other 4 games of the 7, he knew all the signals. He won 4 of them, and he says those games came down to blocking and tackling and taking care of the ball and run fits and coverage tools. He says that's football. It's not rocket science. He says that's football for every game. Got me to wondering why, if it's not rocket science, then why do Stalions and others go through so much effort to steal the opponent's secrets? And by the way, why did Ohio State actually hire a rocket scientist to run his defense this year? Just a thought, a little sidebar there. So fast forward to 2025. Where are we at here? Stalions and Harbaugh are long gone. Well, at least Harbaugh is long gone. Stalions is still in the shadows. Get to that in a minute. Well, I'll get to it now. You have to wonder what his influence is now. I mean, remember, last year, he's coaching high school football in Michigan, leaves the team, and then suddenly appears as Bryce Underwood's offensive coordinator for Bryce Underwood's playoff run at his high school his senior year. And then who does that, by the way? And then all of a sudden, a week or 2 later, Underwood is flipping from LSU to Michigan. He's still involved somehow, I think, somewhere. And then there's current head coach Jerome Moore, who was the OC back then during SpyGate, now the head coach now. And they are still awaiting punishment from the NCAA from that hearing they had in June, which included findings from dozens of deleted and then retrieved text messages between Jerome Moore and Connor Stalions. And I think whatever is in those texts are going to determine whether the NCAA says, all right, that 2-game self-imposed suspension, Jerome Moore, that you're going to have this year during weeks 3 and 4, that's fine. Maybe they're going to want more. I don't know. But then finally, when we get to that point, as Ward Manuel, the athletic director at Michigan, has alluded to, finally, we can all just put all this SpyGate stuff behind us. But anyway, I thought it was fascinating. Just another peek behind the curtain. I love the Netflix special, by the way. I just loved all the behind the scenes stuff. This was out about a year ago, in case you missed it, of what was going on and what Connor Stalions said. Now with these comments, you kind of get some thoughts or philosophies behind the practice, whether you agreed with it's being legal or not. Well, it wasn't legal. Well, stealing during the games, it was legal. Going to other sites and getting that information was illegal under NCAA rules. But the stuff he was talking about here with Sonny Dykes and TCU, that was all in-game stuff. Granted, he got information before the game, but during the game, it's amazing how much Connor Stalions had to think on the fly. Anyway, I thought it was fascinating. Whether you love him or hate him, whether you love or hate Michigan, I thought it was some good stuff, and I wanted to talk about it here today. I would love your comments on it. I kind of know how they're going to go. It's going to depend on whether you're a Michigan fan or a Michigan hater. Nevertheless, if you love football, I think it's pretty interesting. Also, hit that free subscribe button down below. That way you'll never miss an episode of Locked On Big Ten. We are this close to 20,000 subscribers. Since we took over, we had like 1,000 2 years ago. Thank you. That's our goal before football season. Hit 20,000. I think we'll hit it easily thanks to your help as well. Share, follow, and like Locked On Big Ten. Spread the word. Let people know we're out here. Then also don't forget we have our own separate website. It's talkbig10.com. All of our podcasts go there. Plus we have links where you can buy school merchandise from your favorite Big Ten school, pennants, shirts, hats, all that stuff. Right there, getting ready for the 2025 season. All right, speaking of the 2025 season, what about the Iowa Hawkeyes? We don't really talk about them because they're buried in that next tier of teams in the Big Ten that we have high expectations for. But we're going to take a look at them. You Hawkeye fans, wake the kids and phone the neighbors. We're going to talk about this. Plus, we got a recruiting loss at Ohio State and some UCLA news. Plus, our Tuesday tweets. All that's coming up right here in 1 minute on Locked On Big Ten. Game Time. Get the Game Time app if you need a ticket for anything. Sporting events, non-sporting events, concerts, comedy shows. It's summer season. We go to concerts in the summertime, right? And maybe you're online waiting forever for tickets. Don't do that. Just go to an app, Game Time, download it, and get tickets to anything right there. Do you know that the closer you get to the start of a performance, the prices actually go down? And Game Time can get you great deals on any event. Go ahead and just take the stress out of buying tickets with Game Time and start making some memories with your friends and family. So they got these deals. You can save up to 60% off their killer last minute deals. And again, no scrolling to find best deals. They're all grouped right there. They got the Game Time zone deals pick right there. Picks the best seats in your section for you. If you ever wonder if your view is any good, you can be in the corner or whatever. There's a picture, a view from the seat of the ticket you're about to buy right there on the app. You're good to go. And if your plans change at the last second, the Game Time guarantee has your back with cancellation protection. All that and more. So take the guesswork out of buying concert or show tickets at Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and the redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Thanks for making Locked On Big Ten your first listen each and every day. We always appreciate you every day. Meanwhile, hit that subscribe button and share, like, and follow Locked On Big Ten, your team every day. And don't forget our website, talkbig10.com. Podcasts and merchandise right there. Hey, are we overlooking Iowa? Let's talk about the Hawkeyes for a minute for 2025. Well, we talk about whether Oregon is going to repeat as the Big Ten champion, whether Ohio State is going to repeat as a national champion. And then we group other teams into the conversation. For example, Penn State is loaded, a lot of pressure on them to deliver at the top of the college football world. Then we talk about other teams that are going to maybe make some movement upward. Maybe Michigan, if Bryce Underwood is awesome. USC, high expectations. They got to win some more games this year. Indiana, can they repeat what they did with 11 wins? Illinois with 10 wins. These are the kind of things we talk about a lot. A lot of hype kind of circles these teams getting ready for the season. And then you got that next tier, I think, of good teams, but nobody's expecting them to make the playoffs, like Iowa, maybe Nebraska. I think Nebraska's going to be good this year with Dylan Raiola. But let's talk about them later. We'll talk about the Hawkeyes today. They're a good team. They're a good team. They're a good, great program, just steady. And they get overlooked a lot because they're not flashy. And their quarterback play hasn't been very good. Like the whole Cade McNamara thing, for example, just didn't work out. And they completely ignore their wide receivers in a day and age in which wide receivers and passing attacks are a big deal. They do produce tight ends that go to the NFL. They produce linebackers and running backs that go to the NFL. They produce trench players that go to the NFL. Oh, and they punt really well. But I mean, that's just Iowa football. It's a badge of honor. And they, despite the fact not being flashy or maybe the most talented or whatever, they win their fair share of games. I think credit goes to Kirk Ferentz, obviously, who's been there for 27 years, going into year 27. But they don't care. Kirk Ferentz doesn't care if he beats you 7-3, preferably 7-2. That's how he would like it. And by the way, that 7 points may just as well come from special teams or defense than the offense. They don't care. And that's how they win football games. You know, just 2.5 years ago, they were in the Big Ten championship game. So, again, a lot of that goes to Kirk Ferentz and his style of football. Sometimes people get a little frustrated with it. But then at the end of the year, you look at the win total, and they have more wins than losses. And by the way, he's only one win away from legendary coach Woody Hayes and the all-time Big Ten win total. So he's got that coming up. So what about the Hawkeyes here in 2025? Let's go back to that quarterback conversation. So I'm reading in between the lines a lot with this Mark Gronowski that has come in, transferred from South Dakota State. Seems to be a little bit of quiet optimism about his ability. And maybe the Hawkeyes finally have quarterback figured out. And, I don't know. There was some of that optimism when Cade McNamara was coming. Hey, we got Michigan's playoff quarterback coming here. And it just didn't work. It just didn't work out. You kind of got the feel like, oh, maybe this is why Michigan moved on and went to J.J. McCarthy. Maybe. I mean, that's the feeling I got. But, look, McNamara did come from Michigan. South Dakota State is not Michigan or comparable to anything else in the Big Ten. But Gronowski did lead his team to the FCS semifinal in 2023. So I'm going to take a wait and see approach on him and whether he's going to be the guy and whether this is going to work. They also have another big loss to replace, Caleb Johnson. They're awesome running back who's now in the NFL. And they still need to, actually discover their passing game, but they also need to replace one of the greatest running backs they've ever had. So there's a lot of pieces that need to be replaced this year with the Iowa Hawkeyes. And Kirk Ferentz, he's got to do this with let's discuss the schedule that they have to work with. Well, I think it's a little bit manageable here. Look, this is not the easiest schedule. It's not the worst. One of the keys to their season is going to be started out, as always is the case at Iowa. You got to win the Iowa State game, right? It's at Iowa State this year. And then their Big Ten schedule, they got some good teams. They got 11-win Indiana. They got Penn State with aspirations to win it all. They got Oregon, a team that's got aspirations of winning it all. The good news is that Indiana and Penn State and Oregon are at home. Can they steal one of those games? Can they win the Indiana game, perhaps? They got a tough road game at USC, and they close it out at Nebraska, which is always a tough place. I think there's a ceiling here of eight wins. I think they got to win one of those, the Indiana, Penn State, Oregon, one of those three, and they got to win Iowa State. So if they win Iowa State and they get one of the Indiana, Penn State, Oregon ones, maybe you can be talking 8 wins. That's what I think. Hawkeyes fans, I would love to hear from you on that. I know we talk about win totals a lot and all that, but that's kind of how I'm zeroing in on the schedule. Let's talk a little bit of recruiting, or at least behind the scenes with recruiting. Start with the Buckeyes. They're great at recruiting. Nobody will deny you that. Their assistant athletic director of player personnel has left the program to return to his home state and go do a similar job at LSU. He'll be the director of scouting and personnel strategy there. Got a nice resume, this guy. He worked for a decade with Nick Saban as Alabama's director of personal ops, spent 2 years, a similar role at Georgia. So that departure is going to be a tough deal. By the way, the 4th time they've replaced this position under player personnel general manager Mark Pantoni. I don't know if that's a good sign or not for the Buckeyes, but they recruit at the highest of levels, so must be working. Must be a pressure cooker of a job, actually. And then UCLA's senior director of football recruiting, Marshawn Freelo. Been on the job for about a month. Says it's a dream situation. I believe he came from Sacramento. This is a great culture there. Loves being at UCLA. Deshaun Foster, everything's going great. And, if you haven't paid attention, UCLA, their recruiting this year for 2026 has been hovering around the top 10 in 2026. Now, they've had a few defections lately, and so they dropped back. But then they bounced back again. They landed 3-star athlete Torrey Davis. So we'll keep an eye on that, see how things are going. But things seem to be slowly turning around at UCLA. Now, here's another thing I want you to keep an eye on regarding the future of the college football playoff format as the conferences decide how to expand from 12 teams to 16 teams with the new format. at the center of this, you're educated. You watch this podcast, you know the deal. You got the 5+11 format, the 11 at large with 5 conference champions, and then there's the 4-4-2-2-3-1, where the SEC and the Big Ten get 4 automatic qualifiers, and so on and so forth. Nobody can agree on what's the best way to move forward. So, automatic qualifiers or not, SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey, he acknowledged that he and the Big Ten, first of all, he acknowledged all the conferences have different opinions, and he says, yeah, that's okay. We're all looking out for the best of our own conference here. But as you know, Sankey and the SEC and Petitti and the Big Ten have all the control. They can lay down the hammer, says this is the way we're doing it, and that's the way it's going to be done. But they haven't done that yet. They're still having a lot of conversations. And SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey acknowledged that he and Big Ten Commissioner Tony Petitti, who have all the negotiating power, talk all the time. In fact, he says we talked 4 out of the 5 days last week. He also mentioned that he talked to ACC Commissioner Jim Phillips probably 3 days last week. Again, there's no consensus on how to move forward, so Sankey offered this nugget this week. He said, look, we currently have a 12-team format with 5 conference champions. We can stay with that format if we don't agree. I believe a certain podcaster, I like that Big Ten, mentioned that a little while back. Plus, we're anti-expansion. So if it stays at 12, great. That may be an option. That may be just Sankey just talking, maybe get some TV executives excited. Well, hey, we're not going to make more money. What do you mean we're not expanding to 16? Might be some there. But anyway, would it be the worst thing in the world if we stayed with 12? And gave the 5 conference champions automatic bid into the playoffs? Love your thoughts on that as well. So lots to talk about. Love your comments on many things. Connor Stalions, the Iowa Hawkeyes, college football playoff format. Hit me up with the comments. Love it. And then we've got Tuesday tweets. That's coming up next right here on Locked On Big Ten. If you're new to our podcast, you know that, well, maybe you don't know if you're new. We do features at the end of the podcast every day. Top 10 Big Ten observations on Mondays. Tuesdays are Tuesday tweets. Wednesdays, we power rank stuff. Thursdays, we look ahead to the Big Ten Network and their Big Ten Classics over the weekend. And then Fridays, we make picks. So we're going to put this on the screen. We pulled some tweets from Twitter. You can follow us on X at Talk Big Ten. We're going to go full screen with this, but if you're audio only, we'll describe it in detail with what we have here. And this is a picture of Carter Meadows. He's a new commit, an edge rusher for Michigan. His ranking just went up, by the way. He's a 5-star, and he's a number 5 at his position in the world of high school football going into college. So his rating went up even higher. That's from a tweet from EJ Holland. Appreciate that. Here's another one from Michigan. The Alumni Association of the University of Michigan tweeted out there are now 695,883 living alumni from the University of Michigan with the Michigan logo and the Michigan Alumni Association logo. That's a pretty big base that can all donate. Name, image, and likeness. Here's one from Ohio State. Jeremiah Smith had arguably the best true freshman season of all time. Number 1 ranked player. This is from 2025 PFF College 50. They'd be hard to argue. He was pretty spectacular. Here is from at Woody, the first receiver in NFL history to receive an average of over $31 million after playing only 3 seasons. The New York Jets gave him a new deal. I'm going to talk about him again in just a moment, so hang tight there. Here's 24/7 Sports put out the best atmosphere in college football. Tiger Stadium, a lot of lists will have Tiger Stadium at LSU, number 1, especially if it's a night game. Beaver Stadium, Penn State at number 2. Can't beat a whiteout. Neyland Stadium at Tennessee is 3. Kyle Field at A&M. I've been there for a game. And Oregon, Autzen Stadium. Autzen Stadium is half the size of Kyle Field and yet ranks similar because Autzen Stadium is just crazy. Noise-wise. Got Clemson's Memorial Stadium. Husky Stadium at number 7. And the 3rd highest rated Big Ten stadium as well. Got Auburn, Ben Hill Griffin down at the Swamp, been there before. And then Memorial Stadium at Nebraska rounding out their top 10. No Big House, no Ohio Stadium on their list. What do you guys think of that? Here's a college football report. Michigan is now the first school in history to have a first-round selection in the NBA, NFL, NHL, and Major League Baseball draft in the same year. That's right. We just had the baseball draft a couple days ago. Here's from the Big Ten, 2004. Chad Henne had the best freshman quarterback season in Michigan football history with 2,700 passing yards, 25 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, and a completion rate of 60%. Will Bryce Underwood have better stats in 2025 than Chad Henne did in 2004? That's going to be interesting. Maybe. I'm not committed yet. Look, I'm one of the few people out there that's willing to give Bryce Underwood a little bit of runway to like get better. Like I might expect him to actually struggle in a couple of games, I would think. Here is at Trojan football, 11 national championships. It's a picture of Reggie Bush holding 2 Crystal championships, 25 Rose Bowl wins, and 8 Heisman Trophy winners. Very good season. It's a very good season for hating USC. I don't blame them. They hate us because they ain't us. That's what it says. All right, I want to get back to, I showed you the picture of Garrett Wilson a moment ago, the Jets receiver, former Ohio State Buckeye. This is from at the Block Spot, Sam Block. So Garrett Wilson, by the way, if you're not familiar, this is a list of about 8 wide receivers in the NFL. You know what's common with them? Ohio State guys. Ohio State. Stop debating. Ohio State is wide receiver U. Garrett Wilson, $130 million contract today. Terry McLaurin, $68 million. Marvin Harrison Jr., $35 million. Curtis Samuel, $24 million. Chris Olave, $19 million. Emeka Egbuka gets an $18 million deal. Let's see here. Of Jamison Williams. Well, come on. He was at Ohio State for a minute before he went to Alabama. Got $17 million. Jackson Smith and Jigba, $14 million. But yeah, you got some big-time wide receiver. And Jeremiah Smith's going to break all this. He's going to make more money than all of them combined. This is at Michigan State. Content was told by Michigan State defensive back to watch out for wide receiver Omari Kelly this fall. All right. Duly noted. Will do. Speaking of Michigan State, here's a picture of Jace Richardson from at Spartans Hoops in his Orlando Magic jersey. He's been tearing up the summer league. 19 points, 4 assists, 5 of 10 from the field, 1 of 3 for 3 land, and 8 of 9 free throws in his last game against Toronto. Been amazing. And you know what was fun about him? He was a late bloomer. I mean, he didn't even crack Izzo's starting lineup till like February. And he wasn't looking to leave and go into the draft. And that's exactly what he did because he finished up. This is, I don't want to say late bloomer because he was a freshman, but man, it was just a sudden bloomer. Got it all figured out. It's great. Anyway, those are our Tuesday tweets. Let me know what you think. Send me one. Send me one on Twitter. I'll put it on the show. Every Tuesday we do this as well. All right, that'll do it for us here today. Tomorrow, I'm going to look into that Greg Sankey's comments regarding he and Tony Petitti and whether we just stick with 12 playoff teams and call it a day because nobody can agree on anything. Many ways for you to interact with us in the meantime on Twitter or X at Talk Big Ten, our website, talkbig10.com for our podcast and school merchandise from the Big Ten. Be sure to hit that subscribe button before you go so you never miss an episode. Go back and check out another one for a second listen. Or check out a second listen from our friend Brian Smith with the Portal Show on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Enjoyed our visit as always. I never take it for granted. Tell people out there, word of mouth, that we're out here. If you're a Big Ten fan, somebody else is that you know, let them know we're out here each and every day. Big Ten, all 18 teams, opinion, news, analysis, all under one umbrella. For Locked On Big Ten, I'm Craig Sheeman. Talk to you next time.